This is the fourth installment of my overview of our overlanding gear as I was reorganizing and repacking it. This is the cooking gear, just basically some basic camp cooking tools, utensils, etc. Now the next little bit of gear I'm going to go through is our cooking gear. And again, my gear is, well, our gear is stuff that we've assembled over a couple of decades plus of camping in different environments. First, this is a tub Action Pack or Rubbermaid. They're decent. They're rather thin-walled. One thing I have learned with these, and I may upgrade, the way I pack my gear in an M416 trailer, I put a wooden table across and then ratchet strap it down to keep everything from moving. I have noticed that my cheap aftermarket, not quite authentic jerry cans got squished a little bit under the weight, as did these. So I may have to reconsider whether I can do it the way I'm doing it. I'll either need to upgrade the containers or come up with a new way to secure the load, maybe a cargo net or something like that. But in any event, the goal, if you've done a lot of camping, you know you want it to be this way. It's like a 5S project in lean manufacturing. You want to minimize the number of trips to where you store your gear. So in this case, I want as few of these, but packed as efficiently as possible. I don't want to be going back and forth as I'm setting up camp trying to grab other containers. Again, the beauty of the M416 is it's all right there for me. Usually I get to camp, and rather than be going in and out of the trailer the whole time I'm at the camp, I generally take everything out, set it on the ground on a tarp, and then bring back as appropriate or as needed. I do set up a table, and a lot of the cooking stuff ends up staying on that table while we're camping, then goes back in the tub. So, first and foremost, if you like to camp, you're going to want some kind of a proper cook stove. So this is actually not a Coleman cook stove, it's a generic knockoff, but same idea. I will say I've had to work on this thing many times over the years, nothing major, just I don't know if it's a creepy crawly, something keeps getting into the propane lines and blocking them. But it's very straightforward. You can either hook up a small propane cylinder here to your little regulator, or you can hook your regulator by a custom hose back to the propane tank, which is super handy. There's no kind of an auto lighter on this model. You either need a flint and steel or a match to light the propane in the burners. Had this for decades. They're super simple, not terribly heavy, don't take up much space, and you know, guys like their scottles and things like that, little camp stoves, a butane or whatever other kind of fuel bottle. I just like a simple propane camp stove. I don't think there's anything I've tried to do that I couldn't do on this. Now, one other essential for camp cooking is a way to wash your dishes. Now, there's some really slick gear out there. I think I'm Overland Bound, a few other guys, I think Trail Recon, did videos with these really clever collapsible buckets. I don't currently have those, but that's definitely on my list of things to investigate. They're not terribly expensive and they collapse better. I just used a couple of cheap plastic bowls we had lying around the kitchen. Again, in terms of saving money in the budget, most of the stuff I used over the years for cooking at camp were cutlery, utensils, pots and pans that had been thrown out for whatever reason. My wife retired them at some point, and I took them over. So for this, just some hot water and some camp soap, and then a rinse. Now with the Scouts, we'd always throw a disinfection tab in there. I'll be honest, since it's usually just me and my wife, I don't worry about it. There's a bunch of little kids that aren't yours, you tend to be more careful. But it wouldn't be terrible to throw a disinfection tab in there. A little bit of the good old environmentally friendly camp soap. Or if you want, I've got like some imbued scrubby pads here that have like dishwasher liquid built into them. I don't know that you're going to be called an eco-terrorist if you dump that water at your campground, but again, it's another very handy way to simplify dishwashing. And of course, if you're going to be washing dishes, you end up needing some dishcloths. These are just the ones, again, probably stolen by me from my wife's kitchen or retired by her. A dish towel, something to set on the table to let the dishes dry out, Ziploc bags to put them in. And these are a couple of microfiber 3M scrubby cloths that are really handy for camping. Super lightweight, wash out easily, and they can do that little bit of extra scrubbing that you may need to do for whatever reason. Now in terms of utensils, my stuff's all across the board. Like I said, most of the stuff I threw in the camping gear were things that my wife was throwing away anyway. And here's kind of a case in point. A nice old ladle, nothing wrong with that, but someone got careless with a spoon, melted it a little bit in the slotted spoon, no problem. Throw it in the camping gear. Plenty good for out in the woods. Another general observation about my gear, it tends to be military surplus. So for water, lots of canteens, lots of canteen holders, and canteen cups. I didn't grab the cups out here. Now if you served, and you served back in the era of the Alice gear, you know, canteen cups are amazingly useful. Pop them on that Coleman stove, heat up your water, and it's got a little bail so it doesn't get your hands hot. Problem is, your drink gets super hot and super cold very quickly, so my wife did decide to supplement the gear with just a couple of insulated cups. One, as she jokes, for her wine, and the other for my coffee. But in any event, a couple of insulated cups, not a bad idea. This is just a, you know, a work giveaway thermos. I've got a bunch of these because I almost never use big thermoses. I've got one that was a really nice gift from the Boy Scouts. But an insulated thermos, not a bad idea, depending on what you're doing at your campsite to keep your drink hot and keep it around with you. Now again, a lot of this stuff is just kind of odds and ends picked, but here's a set of utensils you should definitely consider having. If you want to roast hot dogs or make s'mores, roast some marshmallows, whatever you want to do over a campfire, or if you're in a hard spot, over the Coleman stove, nice to have a few of these tongs. Nice thing about this tub, it's big enough I can stick stuff like that in there. This is a piece of gear. Those online merchants are shrewd. Hey, for another $5 you get free shipping. So I looked around and I said, hey, you know, that's actually a handy little piece of gear. You just put these little bales in the stand. Awesome way to make toast on an old propane stove like that. Now, this is just a simple strainer. It's got a little rubber base, but again, a pasta strainer, probably a good idea. I am not a gourmet. When I cook for camping, I just cook traditional food, bacon and eggs, you know, hot dogs, maybe a burger. With my wife joining me more now, maybe we'll get a little more creative and need a better set of utensils. But if you're cooking basics, depending on how long you are out there, that's one advantage. At least you can lighten your load. Now, ironically, I say lighten your load because there's a bit of a story with these bits of gear. This is exactly what you might be thinking it is. Really nice cast iron cookware. Crazily enough, my late mother-in-law, God rest her soul, bought these for our third son when he was going off to college, for some reason thinking that young men in dorms cook. And if they did cook, that they would somehow want really good quality cookware. So I availed myself of the opportunity and threw this in with the camping stuff. Now if you're backpacking, obviously you don't want cast iron cookware. But because I throw this stuff in an M416 trailer, my truck's got to be, you know, honestly another 50, 75 pounds for high quality, easily cleaned cookware. It was just not that big a problem. And it is super handy. So in this particular set, and that's really all you need, I've got a little saucepan, I've got a big pot, I've got a frying pan. Maybe you could use a slightly larger saucepan. I am yet to encounter a menu for cooking at camp that I could not accomplish with one simple set of utensils. I should also add upgrading, probably going to retire those guys. I finally sold out and bought a designed kit off of Amazon, you know, cheap kind of made in China deal that fits in a little zippy pouch or roll. I'll stick that in there and get rid of the secondhand stuff. One thing that is included in that kit is a cutting board, so you can also come across, it doesn't have to be part of the kit. It's another nice thing if you don't want to cut on a steel surface or a table, whatever else you've got. Good idea just to bring a simple cutting board. I don't have a sharp knife in here. Usually I just use a camping knife. In my case, I don't pay like a big K-bar or anything. Just usually like a little folding knife. But that kit I bought does actually have a proper kitchen knife in it as well. Although I will say you can get by with simple utensils like a simple little pocket knife. It's just a little less convenient. A couple quick add-ons. These are those little wipes imbued with dishwashing liquid. They're 1,000 years old. I assume you can still buy them. Again, it's not camp soap, so it's not guaranteed low phosphate, biodegradable, etc. But those are super handy. And one other thing I always keep in there is a spare propane cylinder. Again, I can run off a propane bottle, but if I mistimed things and didn't swap it out for a full bottle or whatever, it is nice to have extra fuel as a backup. Now the reason I'm actually making this video, at least the reason I'm making it today, is because I have to go through all this stuff anyway and inventory it and make proper lists. So that is one top tip. The number one piece of camping gear I've ever seen in anyone's demonstration is the list. So if you're like me and you're about to go camping, you don't want to be stressed out. Did I forget this? Did I forget that? It's not to say you'll never forget anything, but first you need to make a list, and then a list of lists, Trello, maybe if you want to do it online, and then you have to look at them before you leave. That's the other hard part. Make sure you actually look at your lists. Now, the reason I say that is this is the everything else tub. When the boys and I did scout camping, we referred to the everything else bag, which I don't think is in here anymore, but it's a ditty bag, a sea bag. Traditionally we put stuff in Alice packs. We hiked out to the troops campsite, and everything else that didn't belong in one person's bag went in the everything else bag. This is an everything else tub, just because I think eventually I'm going to need more than one. So first thing maybe to mention is paper products. Now again, I showed earlier video the camp latrine that we use, a little 5-gallon bucket and kitty litter. If you're going to haul it out with you, I bring some wet wipes. Other than that, I've got trash can liners, trash bags, some paper towels, and this and that. Tread lightly and all that. I try to minimize our use of paper. You notice I don't use paper plates and cups. You can if you want, haul it out with you. For me, it's just easier not to, and I prefer to wash things. But I do like having paper towels. Certainly you need to have some kind of toilet paper unless you really like to rough it. And those wet wipes when you're camping, depending on what you've been eating. Man, they've saved my tail more than once. So you can see from the last trip we overdid it a bit. I ended up doing that twice. More grocery bags, trash can liners, and another roll of paper towels. Now when I say everything else, I mean everything else. I'll go through this in random order. Some of it essential, some of it honestly I'd leave home if I needed to, if it got crowded. Fire extinguisher, one in the truck, one in the camping gear. Awesome to have. I don't know if I'll show it on the video, I have a couple of 5-gallon old-fashioned jerry cans that I wouldn't trust with my drinking water, but I do with non-potable water. Having a good reserve of non-potable water near where you have a campfire, good idea. Decent set of binoculars, really nice to have. You're out there maybe far away from everything, clear night, see some stars, try to remember your constellations, argue with each other about which one's which. This is a handy deal. I have no idea the brand, sorry. But it's just, the reason I like this stupid cheap little light is not because it has the sequence of 6 or 7 functions, it's because it clamps really nice in the ceiling of a tent, and it's not too bright. So I use this in the rooftop tent, clip it to one of the hanging dealies, flick on that first light, and it's just nice to get yourself settled, not in the dark. Of course, typically wear a camp headlight. Now when I say everything else, in our setup, most of your personal gear is in a pack that I won't show in this video, maybe someday down the road. Again, all left over from scouts. It's all very organized. Our second son was our quartermaster. Pack 1 is the pack you take if you're going by yourself. It has one of everything. It has a hatchet attached. I don't think I have an E-tool on there, but pretty much everything. Pack 2 is less redundant then. So if Pack 2 is used, that means someone's with you with Pack 1, so you only need your personal gear that's not already in Pack 1. That's why I'm not showing you like the utensils I use to eat, because that's a mess kit and it's in the packs. This again, fairly random. This is a Y harness, really handy for light hiking. Darn near died in Utah a couple years ago with a friend, exaggerating, we weren't really in imminent danger, but man, we were thirsty. We did not bring enough water, and I felt really stupid that I had this sitting back in the gear with canteens, but instead I just carried like 2-3 water bottles, and yeah, I was parched by the time we got out of that desert hike. These things, again, super handy, military surplus, very cheap. I've got this one rigged up with 3 canteen holders. So that's 3 full-size canteens. You hike around with this, probably won't need any more water than that. Now what else we've got here? It's one of my favorite bits of ridiculous gear. I probably used it 5 times in my life. I think I got it at Walmart, or maybe it was a gift. Ozark Trail Hammock. Actually works. A lot of fun at Boy Scout camp. Tie this up and make everyone jealous. Scout leader sits and takes a nap on the hammock while the kids do the work. Very character building. Hand warmers, why not? I do winter camping. This is a Christmas present, odd little bit of gear. It's just a stiff wire cord clothesline. Someone renamed it and called it Gear Snake, but it can be handy. I've got it in there. Haven't used it yet. Someday might. Spare batteries. If you got electric lights, bring batteries. AA's, AAA's, C, whatever you need, make sure you've got some. Like all gear, if you don't camp often, you got to change it out. Another reason to have lists. Make the list of things that have shelf life, that are perishable, so that if something happens, like, I don't know, coronavirus, and you don't go camping like you had planned, you remember before you go out again that, hey, that stuff needs to be checked. I did that before a recent camping trip, and the gear's not cooperating. I was just attacked by a boot. And it was good. I spread everything out on the patio and I made sure everything worked. I ended up changing out a ton of batteries, threw away some stuff. I would say if you're a seasonal camper or you just get interrupted, go ahead and do that. Absolutely no good reason to pack this, except I bought it 1,000 years ago. I never had good luck with air mattresses, but this is an air mattress inflator. I got it, so I keep it in the tub. Someday maybe I'll give it away or get back to an air mattress. A bag of bags, especially when we used to camp with a lot of kids. This is just a bag of cheap weather ponchos. So if you get caught in the rain, man, you just can't have too many of these little things. It's basically like a roll of cellophane, weighs nothing. Good padding for load engineering. Shove it in between two fragile things, so that's the reason I keep it. I think I actually have had to pull those out before. It's very nice when you're camping in an unexpected rainstorm. All right, now I'm getting into like lighting and fuel mostly. So I mentioned earlier I do run a heater buddy in the tent, and that's a really nice carbon monoxide detector, so I keep that with me. For lighting, now I very carefully bought these tubs to clear the tallest item and still got it wrong, so I take the cap off this electric lantern because otherwise it won't fit. But this is really handy. Nice old Coleman hang it, 2 fluorescent bulbs, 1,000 years old. This is an example of something you check the batteries at the beginning and end of the season, or at least prior to a long trip. Very handy. You don't have to run around fighting with things or pressure up some white fuel. You just pop it on. So I always keep this one handy. It's just nice and simple. This is the preferred method of lighting. This is your traditional Coleman 2-mantle white fuel lantern. These things are pretty durable. My sister-in-law gave me this, found it in an old closet. She said keep it. And I did have to repair it this last year, but I found out I just needed to tighten some things up. It was seeping the white fuel. Do be careful with an older one again. If I hadn't noticed it, I think it would have gone up. But these things throw a lot of light and a fair bit of heat. So on a cool night, sometimes those can be really handy. I do bring some white fuel for the white fuel lantern. God help me if anybody ever runs into my trailer with all this stuff in it. And I don't know why I carry this. I have virtually never used it. I'm not that incompetent a fire starter, but maybe it just gives me a false sense of security that it's there if ever I need it. I suppose maybe one reason to have that almost happened to us. Last camp out, it rained constantly. And I will say if I really wanted to, I could probably use that to start a wet wood fire. Giddy bag, everything else bag. It is in there at the bottom. Mostly use it for padding, but just in case I want it. No idea why a little bit of extra rope is in there. Now that's not virtually every bit of miscellaneous gear. And this is where I'll get into the buy once, cry once versus Walmart stuff. I wouldn't recommend this. I have no idea what my wife paid. It's super cheap, but it proved out the concept. This thing will hold, I think, over 5 gallons of water. You leave it in the sun on the black side out there. It warms up the water, and I actually washed up pretty nicely in this last camping trip. Now, it's not super fancy. People show these like with your pop-up shelter. I'm like, what are the odds of getting a tree with a clear limb that you can set up your shelter that's exactly 6 or 7 feet off the ground, maybe 8 feet, so you can hang this, run the little thing down into your shower? Not going to happen. But I just hung this off my luggage rack and just washed myself off, you know, just with my shorts on. And it was nice. It was nice in the middle of a camp out to have some warm water, nice little wash up. Now, what else I don't like about this particular one, a lot of things are listed what I don't like, but it was good to prove the concept. I haven't thrown it away yet, but I will when I buy a nicer one. The little shower head thing sticks, so your fingers are wet, and so you need like a pair of pliers or a screwdriver with you so that you can pop it open every time you close it to cut off the water. Again, probably paid next to nothing. Excellent use of cheap, crappy, over the internet or in the wrong aisle at Walmart gear. Just to do a shakedown, check it out. If you like it, upgrade. I do believe in buy once, cry once, but buy twice, cry less sometimes works too. My wife picked this up and I laughed at her and then she laughed at me. If you like to use Gaia GPS for a camping route, hiking route I should say, while you're camping, Gaia GPS on your cell phone, pop it in here, and you don't worry about getting it wet if you get rained on or whatever else happens while you're camping. my wife's 5'4", and she insisted we add this. I thought, you know, that is not crazy. Nice little folding stool. It helps her, especially I put the rooftop tent on the ladder rack. Gets up high. This way she can reach things if she wants to help me. I think that's it for the major stuff. I'm sure there's 10 or 20 little bits of odd gear that I haven't included in this part of the video. But hopefully that gives you a sense of what a guy who has 20-25 years worth of junk, I shouldn't say junk, actually the junk I throw away, 20 to 25 years of bits and pieces of camping gear, what that looks like, and how you start to fill the gaps as you go camping. The other thing I should say, another excellent piece of gear, is a smartphone. Every time I camp, I open a new note and I write down the things that worked and didn't work. I throw some things away, I buy some stuff, I fix some stuff, anything that breaks during the camp out, I list there. And every time I get back, I really go over that list thoroughly because I want to get a little smarter each time I do it. So again, lists, #1 piece of gear, lists on a cell phone, very smart way to do it. Keep your cell phone with you, your list is always with you. Hopefully that's helpful. Yeah, I've still got a few minutes here messing around in the garage. I'll show you a few more bits of gear. Probably go grab one of those Alice packs just to illustrate, you know, why I do what I do and how I do it. This is a good one, appropriately labeled air up and air down. One of these days I will get myself a CO2 cylinder. Definitely the fastest way to air up. I don't want to mess around with, you know, various types of compressors. ARB deflator, handy little bit of gear. I also keep a valve tool in there just in case I have to make a valve stem repair. I won't show you the details of this, plenty of videos out there, including by ARB. Main idea is rapid deflation with a little gauge on there. You pop the stem out of the valve, so the little core out of the valve stem, and you can let the air rush out quickly. Test it before you get out on the trail. I do have one uncooperative valve stem. It's never failed on me, but I cannot get this little jobber to unscrew it. So that one, I think someone said Ronnie Dahl was asked, what's your favorite deflation tool? And he said, a stick. So if worse comes to worse on the 4th tire with these, this set of tires, I run winter tires and summer tires, AT in the summer and unidirectional snow tires in the winter, a stick will work, you know, just fine, a little slower. And that's your cheap garden variety, not worth much, emergency 12 volt compressor. I run basically 33s. I have once, leaving the airport, had to inflate a tire that was pretty much totally flat. Came out to the airport parking lot and like, yeah, it works. You know, I don't know, it took 20 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it was. Now, if you're out on the trail and having fun, you don't want to be sitting there 15 minutes. That's why I do intend to look out, look at like somebody built a power tank, the compressed CO2. I think Trail Recon, a few other guys do a really nice discussion of tire inflation. If you're out there running 37s, you probably need to be looking at compressed CO2. Comms. I do not have a ham radio. I do not have GMRS. I used to mess around with those little family radios. This is just your $50, won't last long, Handheld Cb. This is my second one. The other one died on the shelf. Like I hadn't touched it in years, went to use it, and it was no good. Not a huge investment, 50 bucks. I will say most off-road clubs that I know of, they're gonna, if you're with them, you're probably gonna use CB. 50 bucks, handheld. Have this, I don't remember when, I think, you know, I do remember. My Ram Charger had a built-in CB with a proper whip antenna, and I used to carry this in case I was with someone who didn't have comms, and I would give them a little magnet antenna. Sometimes if my wife and I were driving together, I'd give her this, well, its predecessor, same thing, Handheld Cb, little antenna. And on the highway, driving 2 vehicles, this was handy. On the trails, having a spare used to work. Now that this is the only CB radio I keep with me, this is kind of handy. Pop it on top. I usually put like a plastic bag to avoid scratching, stick it on the roof, run that through the door gasket, you know, just loose through the door, hook it up to that, and you're good to go. Little rubber ducky antennas aren't worthless, but they're real close to worthless. And last, yeah, I can use traction boards to level. You can also use these leveling Legos. This is just a brand. I think I picked these up at a campground or a truck stop. Used to do a travel trailer. You had a Jayco hardside. These are really handy. You just stack them up. You can make little structures. Very handy for making sure things don't sink into the ground and for leveling. So again, one of these days I'll do a video on that M416 trailer and how I use it. Again, the key thing for me, you can see not a huge garage, not a huge budget. So I have one trailer to haul gravel, one trailer to haul junk, one trailer for my overlanding trailer. So everything I put on that trailer bolts on and bolts off. Stuff like this, very handy. I can level the trailer. I've got various support jacks, so when I disconnect, none of those are a permanent part of the trailer, and this is a very handy way to support all that. So I got rid of the travel trailer, but kept these. I think that's it for miscellaneous gear. I'll do a quick walkthrough of the Alice pack next. Okay, one last bit of taping for today. If you're wondering why, obviously not a very high-class studio here, especially using an old camcorder. I needed to go through my camping gear today, so I set up this table, made a little space in the garage, and in the middle of that I stumbled across the camcorder and I thought, I should videotape this. Someone might find it useful. This is the last bit of kind of explaining my gear setup. One bit of gear I should have mentioned earlier, a good pair of mud boots. Don't have to be super fancy, you don't know what you're going to run into. So I just throw a pair. These are giant coveralls. You can see they serve many purposes, like painting. But I keep these in the gear when I'm camping. Can slip them over my hiking boots. Good pair of hiking boots I didn't mention. Definitely an essential bit of gear. I'm wearing them. How about that? A nice pair of Salomons. I don't skimp on boots. That's a buy once, cry once item. Cheap boots, injuries, blisters, miserable trip. That's one, buy once, cry once. Buy yourself a decent set of boots, Merrells, whatever. Well, maybe once or twice I found a good set of boots for less than 150 bucks. It's hard. It can be done. You got to shop around, accept a weird color, but don't skimp on the quality of hiking boots. I have made that mistake. These are just regular boots, slip over your sock. Nothing fancy. Just some good rubber boots. I wouldn't wear them on a long hike, but I sure would wear them if my truck got stuck in the mud and I didn't want to ruin my socks and shoes. And those of you guys who do a lot of hiking, or if you've been in the military, wet feet, bad idea. Don't hike with wet socks, boots like that before you hit it. Now this is your good old garden variety Alice pack. It's what was in the inventory when I served many years ago. Love these things. A lot of guys are miserable out in the field. I didn't camp much as a kid, so when we did a field exercise, I was happy as a clam. All-purpose, lightweight, something, Google it or whatever, but A-L-I-C-E, Alice gear. Not high-quality titanium hiking gear. If you're a hardcore backpacker, this won't do it for you. Military gear is built to be practical and survive the rigors of the abuse it'll get in a military application. It can't be too heavy, otherwise you severely limit what a marching soldier or Marine can carry. So it's, to me, a good compromise. Again, I got this stuff taking my kids Boy Scout camping. I mentioned in another one, I label on this pack 1. You can see that there. So if it's just me, pack 1 is with me. If there's 2 people, the second person chooses pack 2 and so far down. This is just a great way to put your personal gear. Toiletries and my clothes go in there. All these bags, even if you're not on a canoeing trip or you're somewhere where you're going to be paddling, or doing something like that, I highly recommend put your laundry, roll it up, shove it, your clean clothes that is, roll it up, shove it in sealing bags. These aren't sealed tight, they actually have vent holes, but at least it'll keep loose moisture off of them. And I just shove that. This is a large, you can get Alice packs in smaller sizes. There's a little battery operated fan, a hat in case I forget one, mess kit, I haven't already mentioned that, and plenty of room in there. This is where I put my toiletries and my clothes. I got for no particularly good reason, a cheap hat on the side. I think I've used it once or twice camping. Canteen cup, always there. Little, I don't have the old folding camp stools, but these are handy. This is a little tripod stool, very lightweight, very nice if you don't want to sit on the ground. I've got folding chairs and stuff like that. I'll put in another video. And in each of these pockets, I won't go through it. Again, I have a list for the pack itself, and then a list that reminds me to put the pack with the camping gear when I leave. First aid kit, rain gear, flashlight, headlight, can opener. I can't rattle it all off. Some Benadryl, some odds and ends. Pretty much a pocket knife, a headlight. Just about anything you need camping is in one of these pockets. And that way, so long as I packed this out and kept it packed at the beginning of the season, or since I really camp year-round, at least once every so often, and I remember to throw it in the truck, I'm good to go with 95% of the personal gear you need. So again, hopefully all this is helpful. That's pretty much a rundown of how I've learned to camp over 20-25 years without spending a ton of money. Well, God bless you if you got all the way through all of these installments. Here's a quick look around my garage and you'll understand why we camp the way we do. Everything has to have multiple purposes and fit in a tight spot. Okay, so I'll add one last little bit of video. If you were paying attention behind me, you noticed the scenery kept changing. That's where all my camping gear ends up, on a shelf in the trailer or in the truck, depending on where it belongs normally. Someday I'll do a more detailed video of that travel trailer. You can kind of get a sense there. There's a Smitty built rooftop tent, a custom fit ladder rack, yada yada, spare tire, some jerry cans. The whole point here is this stuff has to fit in my garage. So there's the truck, there's the trailer. If I need to haul gravel, lumber, whatever, same trailer. All that stuff has to come off. My point in bringing it up is you don't have to be a millionaire to overland. You don't have to have a lot of dedicated gear. You can have a lot of fun with relatively inexpensive stuff that you can fit in a typical small town garage. So again, hopefully this is helpful. You can see I can pretty much fit all my camping gear in a very small space. The trailer fits in front of the truck. The truck's not enormous. And you can enjoy this hobby without some kind of massive toy barn or huge investment.